am going to share the piece that I wrote in Sign and Breath. That was actually part of a larger piece found in another book called A Darker Wilderness. The piece is entitled Memory Divine. Home has always been an overwhelmingly enticing, all-consuming, magnificent idea for me. As someone who was adopted as a baby, I struggle with the weight of the word. To me, it implies a sense of ownership, of claiming, of belonging, of recognition, of relationship, of being claimed, of being wanted, of being seen, of knowing. That I have found in parts elusive. When I eagerly left home at 18, it was always the place I returned to with feelings of both desire and trepidation. This home was where my parents who raised me resided and where I found out that I was not kin in the biological sense. This home was where I looked for myself everywhere, every day, and came up wanting. This home was filled with contradictions that I'm still wading through in an effort to make sense of, well, everything. But this home was also the only place that I knew that I could return to with some degree of certainty that I would be welcomed. I cannot say that I thought the land was extra special or exceptional at that time, except that it was. But it was the only place in my life that felt like a certainty, a kind of North Star in a world that did not know how to see me and that I did not know how to see. For better and for worse, I became myself on this land. So many firsts, experiencing loss, falling in love, being denied, wrestling with anger, feeling humiliation, facing fear and losing, facing fear and winning, creating new worlds, and dreaming, so much dreaming. Daydreaming wasn't just something I did. On this land, it was a state of mind, a state of being. It was an out of body experience I had with my brown body. And that body became something more too as I ran, swam, biked, and climbed my way through a life I wasn't sure I had earned, but was desperate to prove myself worthy of. And all the while, as I dreamed and flew, my parents toiled in the background, their dreams fading as their children grew. By the time my parents left our home in 2003, I had moved at least 12 times and had spent the better part of 5 years backpacking in Africa and Asia, ultimately finding respite in a village in Nepal for a year and a half. By 2003, I had pursued an acting career for 11 years and returned to school where I ultimately completed 3 degrees. By 2003, I had married and divorced again. By 2003, I had become so practiced at throwing my heart out in the world in search for home that I almost didn't notice that I was about to lose the only home I had ever known. As my parents were getting their picture taken in front of their cherry tree, I was working on my doctorate and looking for stories of us on the library shelves and coming up wanting again. As I watched the story of my parents on that land fade to black, I decided to tell a different story. It was time to hold myself accountable. For the last 30 seconds, there's another poem that's not in the book, but it goes with this piece. And it's just called What Saith the Woman? And I was doing this with my mother in mind. What saith the woman who lies in green pastures that are not her own? What songs does she sing? What sound do her fingers make as she tends the garden of some other dream? Does she notice the withered skin, a reflection of a soul that has been forsaken? Does she sense the heaviness of a heart forced to bear a load it did not create? What saith the woman who lies in green pastures that are not her own? Thank you.